So we're back on the bench again. Let me demonstrate for you the issue here. The first thing to note is I have put in that little jumper down here that bypasses the requirement for the command to come from the computer to activate the motors. It basically bypasses these two switches here that fast forward and rewind push in to allow the motor to run without the computer commanding it. And the issue here is this. We can go ahead and drop the cassette mechanism down in. I can fast forward just fine. But if I rewind, well, this time it's going to work. Rewind has not always worked. It's most often failed. Actually, it just doesn't move. The motor runs, but the mechanism doesn't rewind. So you saw it be really sluggish there to start. It actually is working a little bit better here now that I'm trying to demonstrate it. Rewind all the way to the end. And there's where the slipping of the mechanism comes into account. The mechanism just slips once the tape gets all the way to one end or the other. And there it is, failing again. And I'm more and more convinced what's going on here is when I rewind, the belt we didn't replace comes into action here. And you can see that it's pretty loose. It doesn't take much to stop it. There's the belt slipping. And I'm more and more thinking I need to replace that belt. Notice that in this case I've taken off both the belts that drive the position counter, because both of those are also driven from this wheel underneath. So it removes some of the, the tension on the wheel. So let me stop this. I've looked a bit more at the mechanism, and of course this whole top unit here floats. There's a little tiny screw there with a little nylon piece that I'm going to go ahead and remove. I have no idea if this will help me get into the mechanism or not, but what the heck, it's not going to hurt to remove it. Makes me wonder if there's a way for this to slide back further and be pivoted up out of there. I feel like if I could get underneath this sliding part here, I could get to that belt. Trying to decide how that would be done. Well, we're just going to take out another screw here and see what this does, if it releases anything. That looks to be identical to the other screw we took out. Probably should have taken a good photo of that. I didn't. So it looks to me, let's see if I move this forward, will that come out of there? And it will. That's part of the latching mechanism, obviously, that locks it in place. See, this is where I get into the hole. I'll never get it back together. Oh. Flex the spring too far. This is going to be fun. God, that nylon is slick. Come on. Goes to that wheel there. I know which idler wheel it is, or which little wheel. So this wheel right here gets pulled up against the outer ring here and ultimately drives rewind. There's a couple things I can try here. I could pull a bit more tension on that spring. And if the belt's okay, so actually I just need to get that mechanism out. The way to change that belt really looks to be getting this mechanism out, and that requires removing that guy right there. And we looked at this before in a previous video, and I couldn't figure out how to remove that little cap, but we're going to revisit it. There's no cassette on it, so why are you... There we go. So what we discovered was this one was cracked, and I could rotate it and get it off. This one appears that it should rotate as well to release it. And there it went. It just took a little bit more persuasion than perhaps I wanted it to. So the real question now becomes, can I lift that out of there? There is the belt. It is pinched inside of this. So let's go ahead and remove that spring for now. It's interesting that it's got this little red cap that captures it that I don't know how to release. I can't imagine it's just a friction fit. But I guess it is just a friction fit. So I should probably have this unplugged at this point. So it looked like to me, with just a little bit of persuasion, I can get that belt to come off like that. That was a little bit ugly. Let's see which one's the replacement. And it's this one, obviously, so there is another older belt. And the question becomes, so that really is just a friction fit. That's interesting. And it's back in place. So the question becomes, can I push that belt up through there? See, this is going to go back in like this. So actually I was trying to push the belt up the wrong way. It would have been as if I was holding the mechanism upside down. So let's push the belt up through that way. Let's work this back into place. It goes into there. Yeah, this is pretty. Come on, I need both of these to kind of line up at the same time. There we go. The belt should be ran through here. If I'm lucky. We can get it around there. Why is that completely jammed up? There it is. That belt appears to be on there, so that belt can actually be replaced. Required removing the spring here. These little caps twist on and off. So let's see, to release it, I pushed it clockwise. To recapture it, it needs to rotate counterclockwise. There it is, it's locked back on. So we've learned about how that works. Now it's a matter of getting this spring back on. Which I actually struggled with before. These aren't the best needle nose for this. They're kind of worn out. Don't always grab things really well. Like the spring, they just do not want to grab it. They are just like, nope, I have no desire to hold on to that spring. Let's see, I would be able to feed. Is that actually the right spring? Well, I guess it is. A paper towel. Wipe the brass area down here again. Get that dropped back down into place. Helps to put the belt on before I put the bridge on. I don't remember how many times so far in this 410 series I've made that mistake, but it's been multiples. Something I do keep looking at, we'll talk about it here in a second. Is this little piece right here, this metal thing. Normally that's hooked to ground, and I believe what that does is it is a static dissipative for, you know, we've got rubber rubbing against, you know, whatever this cast material is, and I think it's really meant to trying to remember where that screw hole was. I think it's really meant to, bleed off any static buildup that happens on the cassette or whatever on this metal wheel. We actually had this little guy sitting. I thought the screw hole was there someplace, and it's not. So where was the screw hole? That little piece, or was it on this side? It was on this side, wasn't it? Sitting right there. Again, this white nylon is hard to hold on to. There was a little alignment pin which gets the screw hole lined up and gets that caught over the top of that piece. So this didn't need to come off. This didn't need to come off. The one over here on the side didn't need to come off. But let's take a look now at what we've got. Let's plug it back in. Let's just set a cassette back down on there. Should be able to fast forward just fine. Oh yeah, the rewind's now very nice and positive. Yeah, that fourth belt needed to be replaced. That pretty much proves it. I now need to take this belt, and it's going to go, hello, here to here. Okay, the twist came out of it just by running it. We can flip this over. Maybe. Let's unplug it again, just be smart about it. And we've got this belt, which to me seems a little too tight, but it's the belt the kit came with. Come on. Come on, you can do it. Oh, that's not turning because it always confuses me. So without a cassette in, if I fast forward, the wheels advance. But if I rewind, they don't. And that's because rewind's relying on the tape moving this over here. So let's fast forward, rewind. Perfect. This is acting now just like I expect it to. And so if we go to play here, we talked about this before. We've got the little capstan wheel that controls the tape speed that pokes up through this hole right here on the cassette. So it's behind the actual audio tape. And then the pinch wheel here moves down through the larger opening here and pushes the tape up against that pin, and that's what controls the speed of recording and playback. Talked about before, this entire head mechanism, as you can see here, moves forward. And so the erase head moves into the tape here, the record playback head moves in here, and of course we get the pinch tape over here to control speed. There's write protect back here, so if that tab is removed, this side of the tape would be write protected. If this tab was removed, this side of the tape. So the tape is double-sided, is the other thing there. So if I hit play here, you can see the entire mechanism moving in, pinching the tape. Okay, I'm not liking what I'm seeing there. What is that ticking? Why is it happening? Tape out, hit play, and bind this up a little bit so it doesn't, so it's bound a little bit. I don't see that popping happening. So what we're seeing here is the take-up wheel not consistently turning now. It just paused for a long time and then spun and caught up. So why is whatever drives this so stiff? Hate to say it, but I really felt like the replacement belts for the tape counter are too tight. And that one's probably okay. But this little one back here just feels way too tight to me. And too tight a belt will cause issues as well. So I'm going to put the little teeny tiny original belt back on it. It's more like a tiny little rubber band than a belt. Let's see if that changes anything. And look at that, it does. This belt is stretched very tight back there. And I noticed that when I put it on. So that belt seems a little too small to me. That's now working nice and smooth. I can rewind. I can fast forward. I'm going to let it get quite a ways in here. Sorry about the washing machine behind me. You sometimes get to enjoy the Sunday laundry with me. Hopefully it's not too irritating. Rewind. You can see that the tape counter is now running backwards because we're rewinding. If we zero it, fast forward a ways in, rewind it, it should rewind back to 0. You hit play again. So we definitely needed to replace these two belts. The long one's the major drive belt. This is the rewind belt that's captured in here, the old rewind belt. The new one has solved the issue where it didn't want to rewind. The longer belt for the cassette counter works just fine. You know, this one's very much in this oval shape, just from sitting there forever. But this one, which is the final one down here that drives the actual mechanism, had to really be stretched. It was really difficult to get that on and off. And as you could see, that tension seemed to be enough to keep the tape take-up over here from running smoothly. It kept pausing, the tape would start to build up loose inside, then it would spin and catch up. I saw that happening a bunch of times, so I may email Console 5 and ask about that. Maybe we've got it this time. We've certainly taken this thing apart and put it together enough times. It seems to be running nice and smooth. You know, sometimes you see like the capstan or the idler wheel here, which is pushing the tape up against the actual capstan pin. You'll see it kind of jerk and do things. If you leave a cassette recorder in record or play, so that this rubber wheel is pushed up against that pin for a long period of time, I've seen them stored like this. You end up with a pressure notch cut into the idler wheel, and then it rotates and pop, 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 or even catches and doesn't turn. And that requires the wheel to be replaced, and good luck finding an actual replacement. No, I'm happy with this. So I won't put you through watching another reassembly. We've done this reassembly enough times. Hopefully the next video will have us at the computer demonstrating the tape. We'll find out.